a real estate mogul, a former wrestler, and a published writer, but also a man at the center of some of the most controversial legal battles in Bulgaria and Italy. Evelin Banev, known as Brendo, built an empire but became infamous for money laundering and drug trafficking accusations. Cleared of charges, then convicted again, his story is full of twists, betrayals, and political intrigue. Evelin Banev, known by his alias Brendo, was born on October 8, 1964, in Burgas, Bulgaria. Over the years, he built a multifaceted career, engaging in real estate development, authorship, and sports, while simultaneously becoming entangled in high-profile legal battles and criminal accusations. His early years were marked by a passion for wrestling, a discipline in which he excelled, representing Bulgaria internationally and earning the prestigious title of Master of Sport. Under the tutelage of Dimitar Dobrev, he competed in the 74 kilograms weight category and traveled extensively for tournaments and training camps. His studies at the National Sports Academy in Sofia, which began in 1985, became a springboard for his later ventures. As the political landscape of Eastern Europe underwent significant transformation following the fall of communism in 1989, Banev took advantage of the changing times. Rather than remaining in Bulgaria, he spent much of his time abroad, leveraging emerging economic opportunities. He amassed considerable wealth, reportedly making a fortune during the dot-com bubble. His business interests spanned various sectors, with real estate investments forming a significant portion of his portfolio. He played a notable role in developing properties along Bulgaria's picturesque Black Sea coast and within the capital city of Sofia. His financial success, however, was overshadowed by his growing entanglement with criminal investigations. Banev's notoriety largely stems from his repeated arrests and prosecutions related to drug trafficking and money laundering. His legal troubles spanned multiple jurisdictions, with Bulgaria and Italy being the primary countries pursuing cases against him. Despite facing serious charges, his legal battles were marked by a series of reversals and acquittals, fueling speculation about the influence of politics and corruption within the justice system. In July 2014, the Sofia Court of Appeal overturned a previous conviction, erasing a 7.5-year prison sentence handed down by the Sofia City Court. Similarly, in September 2015, Italy's Supreme Court of Cassation annulled a 20-year prison sentence issued against him for drug-related offenses and ordered a retrial at the Milan Appellate Court. These legal developments were closely followed by the public and media, as Banev's trials became emblematic of the murky intersection between organized crime, business, and politics in Eastern Europe. Amidst his legal troubles, Banev experienced a deeply personal ordeal that captured headlines across Bulgaria and beyond. In a shocking turn of events, his 10-year-old daughter was abducted, an incident that sent shockwaves through both criminal and law enforcement circles. For nearly 2 months, authorities, private investigators, and international agencies searched for her, and while she was ultimately released unharmed, the motivations behind the abduction and the identities of those responsible remained unclear. The case fueled speculation regarding whether it was an act of retribution, a warning from criminal rivals, or an attempt to pressure Banev into cooperation with authorities. This tragic episode only intensified the media frenzies surrounding him, casting an even larger shadow over his controversial legacy. Despite spending significant time behind bars and facing a relentless legal onslaught, Banev attempted to reshape his public image through literature. During his imprisonment, he turned to writing, seeking to present a different side of himself to the world. In 2015, he self-published I Gaze Upon the Soul of Bulgaria, a book he wrote while incarcerated. The following year, he released another work, My Truth, which purportedly offered insights into his personal philosophy and experiences. These literary endeavors were viewed by some as an attempt at self-rehabilitation, while others dismissed them as calculated efforts to craft a more palatable public persona. In April 2007, Bulgarian authorities launched legal proceedings against Evelin Banev, formally charging him with organizing a criminal group and engaging in large-scale money laundering operations. The indictment, issued by the Sofia city prosecutor, marked the beginning of a drawn-out legal battle that would span years and multiple jurisdictions. Shortly after the charges were filed, Banev was taken into custody, but he was soon released on bail, a decision that sparked controversy given the gravity of the allegations against him. His name quickly became a focal point in media discussions on organized crime in Bulgaria, with speculation surrounding the extent of his operations and potential political connections. The case took a dramatic turn in 2008 when Swiss authorities made a rare exception to their stringent banking secrecy laws, agreeing to share confidential financial records with Bulgarian prosecutors. This unprecedented move fueled further public scrutiny and raised expectations that Banev's alleged illicit activities would finally be exposed. However, the situation became more complex when it was revealed that the Bulgarian prosecutor's office had provided Switzerland with misleading information in its request for judicial assistance. Instead of accurately stating that Banev was being investigated for money laundering, Bulgarian officials falsely claimed that he was facing charges related to drug trafficking and distribution. This misrepresentation triggered backlash, raising questions about the integrity of the prosecution's case and whether the evidence against Banev had been exaggerated or manipulated for political or institutional reasons. By May 2012, despite years of legal proceedings, the case remained unresolved, with hearings repeatedly postponed, often at the request of the prosecution. The protracted nature of the trial, combined with apparent procedural irregularities, led to growing criticism from Bulgarian media outlets and even reports by the European Commission, which highlighted concerns over potential judicial overreach and politically motivated actions against Banev. As doubts over the legitimacy of the accusations continued to mount, Bulgarian authorities sought to reinforce their case by launching an extensive law enforcement initiative dubbed Cocaine Kings. This operation, orchestrated with significant media attention, was conducted in collaboration with Italian authorities and involved a large-scale crackdown on an alleged transnational drug trafficking network. The operation culminated in the arrest of approximately 30 individuals, including Banev himself. He was accused of financing the smuggling of substantial quantities of cocaine from South America to Europe, with Italian prosecutors assuming primary responsibility for prosecuting him on drug-related charges. Following his arrest in connection with Cocaine Kings, the Italian government formally requested Banev's temporary extradition to stand trial in Italy. Determined to fight the extradition, Banev and his legal team mounted a vigorous defense, arguing against his transfer to Italian custody. However, on July 17, 2012, the Bulgarian Court of Appeals ruled in favor of extradition, authorizing his transfer for a one-year period under the condition that he would be returned to Bulgaria as needed for his ongoing money laundering trial. The ruling was highly contentious, as Banev's legal rights appeared to have been compromised in the proceedings. The court denied his request to appoint a new defense attorney and rejected an appeal by his court-appointed lawyer for additional time to review the extensive case materials. These procedural decisions raised further concerns about fairness and due process, fueling speculation that the case was being handled with a predetermined outcome in mind. On July 26, 2012, Banev was extradited to Italy, where he faced further legal challenges. His transfer to Italian custody was a significant milestone in the ongoing saga surrounding his legal troubles, yet it also deepened the controversy surrounding his case. While authorities framed his extradition as a triumph in the fight against organized crime, critics argued that it was yet another example of a politically charged prosecution riddled with inconsistencies and procedural flaws. As Banev's legal battles continued to unfold, the lines between justice, power, and manipulation remained blurred, making his case one of the most controversial in Bulgaria's modern legal history. In February 2013, after years of legal battles, the Sofia City Court delivered a highly controversial verdict against Evelin Banev, sentencing him to 7.5 years in prison. While the ruling was severe for him, the three other individuals charged alongside him were acquitted, raising immediate questions about the consistency of the prosecution's case. His defense attorney, Ina Lolcheva, swiftly condemned the conviction, arguing that there was a complete lack of evidence justifying such a harsh sentence. She pointed out that the prosecution's central argument was absurd. Merely traveling together did not constitute a criminal organization. According to Lolcheva, if such logic were applied, then any group of tourists could be labeled as an organized crime syndicate. Further emphasizing the flaws in the case, the defense highlighted an alarming legal inconsistency. The alleged source of the laundered money had never even been questioned, much less charged with any wrongdoing. Lolcheva argued that if there had been any real interest in pursuing justice, the prosecution would have sought testimony from this person. Instead, they avoided doing so because they likely knew that their allegations would collapse under scrutiny. The court, however, still concluded that the money originated from this individual and his supposed criminal enterprise, despite never questioning or investigating him. The defense viewed this as a clear indication that the trial was driven by an agenda rather than solid legal reasoning. Just a few months later, in July 2013, the Milan City Court handed down an even harsher ruling. After a 4-month trial, the Italian judiciary sentenced Banev to 20 years in prison, finding him guilty of participating in an international drug trafficking organization. This verdict came despite the fact that, according to his lawyer, there was no concrete evidence linking him to the charges. His defense team strongly contested the ruling, arguing that Banev had never even set foot in Italy, let alone engaged in criminal activity there. They pointed out a glaring flaw in the prosecution's case. All the so-called evidence presented in Milan had been supplied by Bulgarian authorities. Italian law enforcement had never put him under surveillance, never wiretapped him, never followed him, and never launched an independent investigation against him. The Italian judge who presided over the case later made a striking admission in an interview with a prominent Bulgarian newspaper. He openly stated that Banev should strongly consider appealing the verdict, as no direct evidence of his guilt had been submitted. The conviction had been based entirely on witness testimony from co-defendants, statements assumed to be truthful without further verification. The judge's candid remarks added fuel to the growing perception that the case against Banev was built on questionable foundations and that he had been caught in a web of politically motivated legal maneuvers. Following the Milan trial, Banev was sent back to Bulgaria, where his legal fortunes took another unexpected turn. In July 2014, the Sofia Court of Appeal overturned his conviction for money laundering and found him not guilty. He was subsequently released on probation, a decision that deepened the divide between those who saw him as a wrongfully persecuted businessman and those who believed he had merely evaded justice through legal loopholes. The Italian chapter of his legal saga, however, was far from over. On September 22, 2015, Italy's Supreme Court of Cassation took a dramatic step, annulling his 20-year prison sentence. The court ordered a retrial at the Milan Appellate Court, citing serious legal irregularities in the case. Unlike the other individuals convicted in the Cocaine Kings operation, whose sentences remained intact, Banev's conviction was deemed unjust due to the complete lack of evidence against him. The ruling also made an intriguing observation. The court acknowledged that Banev's wealth and political neutrality had made him a target, fueling hostility that resulted in an unfair assessment of his character and activities. This statement hinted at the possibility that the entire prosecution had been influenced by external forces, further complicating an already convoluted legal history. Nearly a decade after his legal battles had seemingly settled, an unexpected twist occurred. On the morning of June 24, 2024, at precisely 7:30 a.m., Banev voluntarily walked into a Bulgarian prison to begin serving his sentence. His decision shocked both the media and law enforcement, as there had been no prior indications that he would take such a step. Accompanied by his attorney, Peter Zafarov, Banev appeared calm and composed, carrying a large bag, presumably filled with personal belongings. When approached by a journalist, he identified himself and stated that he was fully aware of the gravity of his decision. He then proceeded to present his Bulgarian identity card and the necessary documents to the guards at the prison checkpoint. The authorities were caught entirely off guard. Officials from the General Directorate of Execution of Punishments were visibly surprised, as were officials from the Ministry of Internal Affairs, who had not been prepared for his sudden surrender. The move sparked immediate speculation. Was this a strategic decision to control the narrative surrounding his imprisonment? Had he reached some kind of understanding with authorities? Or was this simply an act of resignation after years of legal uncertainty? Whatever the case, Evelin Banev's story, filled with dramatic twists, judicial battles, and unanswered questions, continued to capture public intrigue, ensuring that his legacy remained as complex as ever. Evelin Banev has long maintained that the legal troubles he faced were not the result of genuine criminal investigations, but rather a direct consequence of his refusal to comply with a political request. According to Banev, he was formally summoned in writing to meet with Bulgaria's then Minister of the Interior, Rumen Petkov. During this meeting, he was allegedly pressured to provide false testimony against the infamous Margin brothers, two high-profile figures linked to organized crime. Banev claimed that when he declined to participate in this scheme, refusing to fabricate evidence against them, he effectively sealed his fate. In his view, the 2007 money laundering charges filed against him were nothing more than retaliation for his refusal to play along with the authorities' political agenda. These allegations cast a long shadow over the integrity of the prosecution against him, raising questions about whether his case was truly about justice or whether he had simply become a pawn in a larger power struggle within Bulgaria's political and law enforcement elite. However, no event in Banev's turbulent life brought more public attention than the shocking abduction of his 10-year-old daughter, Lara. On the morning of March 5, 2013, as she was leaving her home in Sofia, three masked men ambushed her and forcibly took her away. The attack was brutal. Her unarmed driver attempted to intervene but was shot twice in the back before the kidnappers sped away with the child. This marked the first major kidnapping in Bulgaria since 2009, reigniting concerns about the resurgence of organized crime-related abductions. The immediate question on everyone's mind was, who was behind the kidnapping, and what was the motive? Theories quickly emerged, but no clear answers surfaced. Chief Prosecutor Sotr Tsatsarov held a press conference 3 days later, where he made an ominous statement, declaring that the kidnapping of Lara was a message to Brendo. This cryptic remark led to intense speculation about who was sending the message and what exactly they wanted from him. One of the most controversial theories implicated some of the highest-ranking officials in Bulgaria's outgoing government. With Prime Minister Boyko Borisov's administration in the process of stepping down, speculation swirled that key figures in his cabinet, Borisov himself, Minister of Interior Tsvetan Tsvetanov, and the head of the Chief Directorate for Combating Organized Crime, Stanimir Florov, had a vested interest in keeping Banev silent. Former security agent and politician Alexei Petrov fanned the flames by publicly stating, "If Brendo talks about Borisov, Tsvetanov, and Florov, it will be frightening." At the time, Borisov's party, GERB, was struggling politically, and media reports suggested that they were willing to go to extreme lengths to hold onto power. Some analysts theorized that the kidnapping was orchestrated as a calculated move to create an atmosphere of chaos, reinforcing the idea that without Borisov and his party in control, Bulgaria would descend into lawlessness. Others believed the kidnapping served a dual purpose, both as a scare tactic to intimidate Banev into silence and as a public demonstration of the dangers of organized crime, conveniently timed to justify the ruling party's hardline policies. This suspicion gained even more traction after Tsvetanov's bizarre and evasive behavior during a televised interview. When repeatedly asked, "Where is Lara?" he dodged the question multiple times before finally making a chilling statement, "What happened is unpleasant, but let's not forget who her father is." His refusal to express concern for the child's well-being and his decision to instead focus on Banev's alleged criminal ties raised alarm bells. Many interpreted his words as a veiled threat, implying that Lara's abduction was not merely a criminal act but a calculated warning directed at her father. Weeks passed with no official breakthroughs, and the public feared the worst. Then, on the night of April 21, 2013, the ordeal took an unexpected turn. Lara was suddenly released, left in front of a police station in Sofia at approximately 10 p.m. Physically unharmed but undoubtedly traumatized, the girl's safe return was a relief to many, but the circumstances of her release only deepened the mystery. Unconfirmed reports suggested that the kidnappers had initially demanded an astronomical €10 million ransom for her release. However, negotiations, whether formal or informal, seemed to have taken place behind the scenes. In the end, it was rumored that the abductors had settled for a significantly lower sum, allegedly around €530,000. If true, this suggested that either the kidnappers had lowered their demands or that the situation had changed in a way that made their original request untenable. Despite her return, many questions remained unanswered. Who exactly had orchestrated the kidnapping? Was it an act of revenge by criminal rivals, a political maneuver, or an independent crime driven by financial motives? And most importantly, if it was indeed meant as a message to Banev, had he understood and complied with it? The entire episode only added another layer of intrigue to an already controversial figure, leaving the public to wonder just how much of the story had yet to be uncovered.